Good morning, gearheads. Welcome to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM. We're excited for the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa, and it looks like the weather is continuing where it left off in qualifying. This is John Massengill, and I am in Austin. I'm joined by Jonathan Green, Les Kaiser, and former Haas F1 team manager Dave O'Neill. Good morning, gentlemen. How are all of you?
Good.
Oh, yeah, doing great. Ready for some racing again.
Yeah, about that time.
Well, qualifying was, one of the best we've ever seen, and with Max Verstappen on pole, but George Russell on the front row. Jonathan, I got to go straight to you to get your take on this. I mean, you got to be excited as a Brit and also just as a Formula One fan.
Yeah, I mean, no question. Hardest circuit in the world, worst conditions in the world, a level playing ground because no one had a power advantage or anything else. He hasn't necessarily got the best car in the land, but he beat a Red Bull and he beat both Mercedes. And if you ever needed a calling card to say that I'm the next Mercedes driver, that was it.
Totally agree. You know, next year I just got to see that he's really going to just light up things. I love the way he performed when he sat in Lewis's car, and then this weekend.
Yeah, I'd forgotten this is actually his second front row start. But Dave, would you agree with that assessment that to do it at Spa is, I don't know, it's as good as you can get, right?
Yeah, that's the one you got to tick it off the list. He also did it, I think, in Bahrain. You know, jumping into the Mercedes and getting the job done there as well. Yeah, I've always been a fan of George. You know, he's the driver president between all the other drivers, so he must be highly respected there. And he's consistent. You know, he turns up. He's professional at the start of the weekend, at the end of the weekend, and he does what he needs to do. And pretty impressive.
You can tell that team's behind him, but it's what a great fill-up it is for the new look Williams. I mean, think about it. A year ago, John, we were talking about Williams not even scoring points at all.
Yeah. I mean, they look like a disaster for the last couple of years. And it's funny. I heard somebody commented. I did watch some YouTube videos, and somebody was saying, and one of the faster teams this weekend, Williams, and it just doesn't even sound right. And but what do you guys think was the reason that George Russell was able to pull this off? Because, you know, obviously with the weather, tires and everything else, but Dave, I want to start with you. What do you think? Why do you think they were able to do this? And I mean, qualify ahead of both Mercedes?
Well, I think you have to have the right guy in the middle of the cockpit. That's good. And then the other thing is that Spa is, like Jonathan said earlier, Spa is just one of those places that if you get it right, it's hugely rewarding. And if you get it wrong, you know, we've seen what happens when you get it wrong. But you know, you can be sitting on the pit wall, and it can be raining, and you're all deciding to change tires and, you know, get it onto the wets. It's the end of the world type thing. And then at the back of it, you see everyone with their t-shirts, no umbrellas up, and it's just one of those places that's fantastic to be there, just purely because of the shots you got to call. And there's a little bit of luck, of course, required, getting out at the right time before the rain starts, or staying there as the rain stops, so you get in the dry track towards the end of the session. So I guess he hit all the parameters there to do the business. He had his new tyres on, so they weren't rolled over on the blocks, so they were nice and sharp. It's getting rid of the water. I think he played it right, or the team played it right in that scenario.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that, because they, in fact, in the post-quali interview, he said, you know, the team did everything right. They got me on track in the right situation. They got me in the right spacing amongst the traffic. The tires were right. Everything was right. And I liked the way, I mean, he was very explicit. They got me in the right place on the track with the tires.
And to be fair, Mercedes didn't really do a great job in qualifying.
Yeah, good point. Well, look, we've been off for summer break, and Formula One has, and there's been so much that's been going on, and I'll get back to qualifying, and we'll talk all about everything that happened. But we got to talk about some of the stories that have happened, and one of the big ones, especially for us here in the United States, and particularly us here in Austin, is that the Formula One calendar, the new calendar, has been updated, and it looks like Austin is staying in the same place in the October 24th spot. And this possibility of the second race is not going to happen.
Wow.
So we were excited for that, but with COVID,
watch this space though, John.
What's that?
I said, watch this space. There's still a long way to go yet, and more cancellations could happen.
I mean, it's true. It's true. I mean, the way the calendar read, it looks like that we've got it set, and feeding right into that is that we're going to play some clips here in a little bit. We interviewed the mayor of Austin, who we did that on Monday of this past week, and we asked him about the race, and his response was all positive. So we'll play some of that here in a bit. But the fact that it looks like Mexico is staying on the calendar, although it's moved a little bit. But what do you guys think about, the way the calendar's broken down, the way the changes have happened?
I think it's a good thing. There's nothing I disagree with or don't like. They're giving themselves the best run at it. They've announced a TBC after Brazil because Mexico and Brazil could still be problematic, and even Austin, if you think about it. We're not out of COVID by any means whatsoever. It's one of those years where somebody said it yesterday. It's like, well, it's been a great start to the year, but who knows what is going to happen in the next 3 months around the world and for Formula One. We've got a cracking championship, and we're only halfway through.
Yep, I agree. I think they continue to watch surges as they, I heard someone else saying again, I haven't looked at the specific numbers for Brazil and Mexico, but that continues to be a big concern, which, quite honestly, if it turns out to be an issue impacting the schedule, don't strike Austin out yet. They'll be here. They'll be set up. They could just hang around another weekend.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, we'll see how all that plays out. But I'm just looking at the story where Domenicali was talking about it. And, we've got now Mexico is now scheduled for November 7th. So it moves them back a week. And so, we do have the spots. And there is that TBC on there right now on November 1st. So you're right, Jonathan. They could do a little shuffling and see what happens.
Well, they're muting potentially Qatar as that event so that they stay in the Middle East for the final run, as it were.
Yeah. Well, we also had some activity at Spa before the Formula One weekend because you had the W Series there, and you've also got FIA Formula 3, and man, I don't know if everybody's paying attention, but there's 4 Americans.
Heck yeah.
In FIA Formula 3. And Jonathan, we had a couple of them in the points, didn't we?
Yeah, both Jack Crawford and Logan Sargent. There was 3 races, got podiums this weekend. Logan Sargent had a good weekend, top 10 pretty much throughout. Jack Crawford up and down a bit. Yeah, and also the return of Juan Manuel Correa to Spa, which was, and I know Dave could talk to this. That's quite to sort of extol the demons of a huge, massive crash a couple of years ago, which put him out for a long time, took out a season from him, which is why he's back in Formula 3, because remember, he'd already made it up to Formula 2. So, this is a build-back season for him. So, pretty impressive.
Yeah, he did well to come back, recover like that, and that's all he had in his head was to get back in the car. So hats off to him. It's easy getting in the car, but mentally preparing yourself is another thing completely, especially going back to that place.
Yeah, and we saw from the incident yesterday with Lando, how quickly things can go wrong, and of course, same with the W Series. So, That corner remains the most audacious, bold, committed corner in Formula One, I would argue.
There was a lot of talk about, calming down that corner and smoothing it out, take some of that away. And I'm not for that. I'm for extending the runoffs there. Had the opportunity to walk through that stretch. And yeah, it's going to take knocking down some trees and maybe taking down a section of bleachers and putting it up somewhere else. But, it's Eau Rouge to me feels very much like the corkscrew at Laguna Seca going backwards.
Yeah.
I mean, that you start at the bottom of the corkscrew and you snake up.
Maybe we should try that.
Hey. But to me, that's one of the most exciting turns. I mean, in the U.S., I think the corkscrew.
Yeah.
And haven't seen everything going through there, haven't got to walk the course through that. That's so exciting. And then to see all the cars coming through, knowing they can't see the next apex. And they've got to go on that. Eau Rouge is, a step beyond being on a current F1 calendar. But I think the biggest part of the danger could be resolved by stretching out the runoff that's there.
Yeah, as Martin Brundle quite eloquently put it, there are some physical factors like the forest itself, like the roads around the forest. And frankly, like I said, he put it eloquently by saying, look, the only reason there's 70,000 people standing at the bottom of that hill is because of what it is. I.e., it's risky, it's dangerous, and this is what these special guys, these gladiators, do. And take that away, and it really doesn't become the spectacle that we love and want to see.
Lewis Hamilton also agrees with that. Lewis Hamilton says that leave Eau Rouge as it is. And I mean, we can't remove all of the risk from this sport. It's not possible. And I don't think people want to see that it just completely risk-free. And yes, more runoff, but I just, it is so exciting to come to Spa to see this corner. I think everybody agrees with that.
Yeah. Nobody wants to come to Spa and see what the average Prius driver can do. But I just think that the runoff, don't mess with the track surface itself. Leave that alone.
Yeah.
Take everything beyond it and finesse it. I don't want anything about the track change. Take everything beyond it. So, the situation we saw in the W Series, they go off. Well, they miss the second apex, but they slide through it. That's fine by me, and not take out a barrier or whatever.
Yeah, and I think just as Alex Works and the team, developed the Halo over several years, maybe there's some new technology that we can start working on for a corner as, tricky as that, so that when you hit a barrier or whatever, the dissipation, which was good with McLaren this weekend, can work. I don't know, Dave, what's your take on terms of what technology could be used to I agree with Les, not to change the surface, but to maybe change the technology around catchment.
Yeah, it's really interesting listening to you guys discuss that, and I think the point is the safety of the car. Well, first of all, if you've ever walked up it, I've walked up it several times doing the track walk, and also I've tried to cycle up it. The first time I got to it, I had to get off my bike that steep, just to give you some form of idea. And what they used to do in the old days was up at the hairpin, they used to go long and then turn around and go up by the bar, and basically get a run up down the hill. So they used to go faster, try and go faster through the corner. The biggest limitation where it all starts going wrong, as I think they described yesterday, was with Lando, was he wasn't turning into the corner when he hit the bottom. So when he hit the compression, you literally take all the travel out of the dampers, and you're kind of a passenger at that point, and hoping the tyres grip to get you to turn into, to go up the hill. So from that point on, that's where his mistake happened, and also touching the curbs. Again, that's the risk you take, but in order to go quick, you need to touch the curbs. So it's a case of how can you put this corner together. Now, the other bit is typically the damage normally happens when someone else gets hit. after they've made a mistake, that's where you see the big crashes. And I think the W Series, that's what happened on the qualifying session there. But it's a difficult one. I think, they carry on improving the safety of the cars. Les has got a point about moving it further out, but if you move, what typically happens if you move safety areas further out, the drivers take more and more risk and, end up traveling to the safety area or to the barrier. I don't know. It's had its huge chunks there over the course of the decades, and I think it's especially when the weather changes, that's when when you've got water left on the curbs, people make mistakes up the top end of it when they've got to change direction to go off down the straight. So difficult one. I don't really have an answer. It's just most of the time it's just such a fantastic corner to watch, and seeing some of the overtakes in the past that have gone on there. And again, you've got to look at who's won there the most. Schumacher's won six races there. Senna, Jim Clark, Kimi Raikkonen, Lewis Hamilton, and then Fangio. Damon Hill with 3.
Yeah.
So it definitely shows that it shows the champions come out of there for sure. With the weather changes and keeping it together through the corner and the rest of it. We can't forget it's the longest circuit on the calendar, and it gets as quick as you go up the hill and turn into the top chicane, and then start your descent into the rest of the circuit. But yeah, it's a fantastic place, and that's why you get so many people watching it, I guess.
As I was standing at the bottom, my daughter and I were walking all the way around through the spectator areas. As I was standing at the bottom, watching those cars go through, I almost felt like I felt that compression myself as they hit that. It's such a smooth, but you can see it's a drastic G-force that those cars go through.
I think all of us, when you see Eau Rouge, like coming out of the break here, and you see Eau Rouge come up on the screen, you just get that feeling. It's just so special to see that spot in that corner that everybody gets excited. I think that making big changes to that would be a mistake. But well, guys, we need to take a break, but let's get in a word from our sponsor. The Speed City F1 pre-race show on SiriusXM is brought to you by CrowdStrike. Use the cloud to secure your team in the office, at the track, or anywhere with CrowdStrike at crowdstrike.com/anywhere. And I want to give a quick shout out to George Kurtz, the CEO of CrowdStrike, because he was in an accident at Road America this past week. I think it was on Friday, but he's doing great. Apparently they just went to the hospitals for a check-in, but he's doing great. So good to hear that. And we've had him on the show before, and we'll get him back to soon. But let's go ahead and take our first break. And when we come back, we'll continue to break down the Belgian Grand Prix. Grab a cup of coffee and get back with us, and we'll be back after these messages.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM.
Guys, I want to talk about the history of the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa, because it's one of the most historic places that Formula One. We talked about Eau Rouge already, but the fact that the circuit itself goes back, well before what we know as the current Formula One, it goes back to the 1925. I mean, it's incredible. And I know both Jonathan and Dave O'Neill and Les Kaiser, you've all been there. I have not been to Spa. But Dave, I want to ask you about the history of the circuit itself, and just, when you show up and think about the history that's happened while you were there. I mean, it's just got to be amazing, right?
Yeah, it's a fantastic place. It's one of those tracks, just getting there. You can either fly, get the train, or drive. Some of the guys used to take their old cars and drive over for the weekend. So it's not too far from most of the bases in the UK. You just go under the tunnel. It's an hour in the tunnel to France, and then drive up to Belgium. you get in there. There's no huge hotels, so it's not like being in a huge city or anything. So you just have loads of cabins everywhere. People rent their houses out. I guess they were the first to start Airbnb for motorsport back in the day. But people just opened their houses up, and you'd take a couple of houses, and the teams would go in there. But yeah, the history of the place, not much has changed. Obviously, the bus stop area has changed from the old days. The top end where the hairpin is, that's been changed. But the rest of the circuit's just been made safer with the barriers that they have around it. They've got 2 sets of garages there. So there used to be the old garages, which are on the hill going down towards Eau Rouge, actually, which are really small from memory. And then they put the ones up the top. So they made a huge change at the top of the hill, just putting the F1 garages in. And again, the biggest thing about Spa is just the weather, and the history it has, as you say, Jonathan. It's the history, the years and years and years of history that's been built, and the races that's had, and also not only that, you have to look back at all the races and see how much has changed that's attributed to the weather. Where someone's been out there leading, looking really good. Yep, he's got it in the bag type thing. And all of a sudden the rain starts and changes the whole thing up. I was there in Spa when Hill and Schumacher came first and second. And again, that wasn't meant to happen either. But those sort of things happen. And again, it's just a nice one to tick off the list, I guess, as a spectator and also as working on the cars.
Yeah, and I would say one of my long-term memories of it is when I was doing Formula One back in the mid-90s. Jos Verstappen was at the height of his, so Max's dad, and it was famous because there was no Dutch Grand Prix. It was famous for the amount of Dutch fans that would come. So I had this great idea of trying to show that off to ESPN or the American fans, and so I asked Jos if we could leave the circuit together and film it. And he literally, it was like being with a rock star. I mean, people would not get, people were pouring through the sunroof to get his autograph and all the rest of it. And that was 20 years ago. That was, when Max wasn't even born. And, so that, imagine that today at the start with Max on pole, because Jos Verstappen was quick, but he never really had the career that Max is having. But he was ever so popular with the Dutch fans, and they would come on their droves. And now we've literally got back to back for these rabid Dutch fans. They just love this sport and they love this race, and they will be front and center to watch Max today.
Well, when I went, I was there in spectator mode, and I will tell you it was phenomenal. I got on a charter bus package where they deliver you with your tickets and everything, and my daughter and I went, and as we're arriving, somewhere about an hour away from the track, we slowed to a crawl. I could have walked faster, literally. And it just crawled, and motorcycles were just streaming by us. And when we finally got to the track, the area where the shuttle bus came in, or the charter bus came in, looked more like a MotoGP audience because of all of the motorcycles that were there.
Yeah.
And oh, that was fantastic. But then, so we walked around the entire course, and one image somewhere, I've got a picture of a guy that's probably upper 70s in age, sitting on a tree limb that's got to be about 12 feet off the ground. And he's got a little 6-pack cooler with him and a little brown bag lunch.
Yeah.
Sitting there. And my daughter points him. I was like, look at this guy. But it was like that all over. People in trees sitting up there. And it's like, no telling what time he got there because we were there early in the day. But you're right. Rabid fans, especially for Max. We saw somebody with the clogs and 33 on their clogs.
Oh, yeah.
That was fun. But the audience there is just as enthusiastic and appreciative of all of the racing, and just the enthusiasm is amazing there in the audience.
Hey guys, we got to talk about what the track looks like right now, because I'm looking at cars on track.
And I'm looking at Verstappen in the wall.
In the wall, for sure.
At the top of Lake Coombe, on the warm-up, on the outlap.
Wow.
Is it Verstappen?
I can't tell because, I can't
Oh,
tell.
No, it's
Checo.
Perez. Excuse me. It's
Checo.
Perez.
Perez,
yeah.
okay.
But even so, that's how bad the situation is. And I think, John, I didn't want to interrupt you, but that's just happened on ESPN, so we were keeping an eye out. But
I think my feed is a couple seconds behind you, but yes.
So we've got the first outing here in these conditions, and Perez has already thrown it into the wall at the top of at the top of the hill. So he's got through Eau Rouge, then he's come around gingerly, and he's literally aquaplaned off. That's what's happened. So that's how much water's down. So we could have a delay, boys. And we should bring our team manager in here now because he'll be doing his head scratching, I know, in his head. And he was on full wets too, Dave.
Full wets, yeah. Well, there you go. There's decisions to be made, isn't there? You know, what would be happening on the pit wall now is, you know, you'd be having a chat with Gunter and saying, what do you think? And he would be saying, yeah, bit dangerous to start, you know, but when you're at the back of the grid, you're kind of happy to take these risks as well because, you know, as history's shown, you can do something with it. But, you know, if it's too dangerous to start and the cars are aquaplaning off and the tyres have no grip, you know, as soon as you take the tyres out of the bags, they come out at 120 degrees. They have heat for probably 30 seconds, and then you get into the water. I don't know what the temperature of the day is there currently, but that obviously doesn't help. The track's lost all its heat. So when, you know, the interesting thing about Spa is when you have a rain in any of the hot countries, the surface temperature of the track is pretty hot. So when the rain stops, the water goes away pretty quickly. But in Spa, it doesn't. It still has its rivers running through. So you have to mark all the rivers and the excess water running off from the forest and show the drivers where they are. I mean, most of them know where they are. New ones appear from time to time, so you have to be pretty aware of that. But you'd be saying, you know, this isn't really safe to start. And of course, the drivers are the ones that kind of dictate when you do the tyre change during the race as well. So you can suggest to go on to intermediates, but ultimately it's the driver's choice. Says, you know, no, it's too wet, or yeah, let's go for it. But yep, there'll be some common sense for sure after Lando's crash, and you know, in the order of safety, people will be deciding that it's not safe to start. So
would they start behind the safety car?
They can start behind the safety car, but they'll probably come back to the grid, stick the easy ups up, and they'll have a start delayed for another 10 minutes just to see how the weather's playing out.
Well, Dave, so okay, we go to, you know, full wets, but what other items are coming into play with this? I mean, do they adjust cooling? I'm betting the front wing gets pinned as hard as it can for downforce, but what else is going on?
Typically, when it rains, certainly in any start of any race, you wouldn't change anything because the likelihood is that the track's going to dry. So the most you'll do is you know, turn the front wing and stick the wets on. If you think and you know that it's going to rain the whole race, there's probably other things you'll do, like raise the car slightly so it gives it more roll, so you have more grip on the tyres all round. Possibly up on the rear wing slightly, those sort of things. But mechanically, not much has changed for a start of a wet race, just purely because it's going to dry out. And then, of course, the car goes slower and eats the tyres up if you've got a softer car.
Are there FI limitations as far as what they can do?
Yeah, I mean, you can change what you want at the start of the race, i.e. wings and tyres. But, you know, bars and springs or torsion bars, you can change if you wanted to as well. But again, not much point as it dries out.
Gotcha.
Hey guys, I think our producer has some of the Perez team radio from when he hit the wall here. Let's play that and see.
Check it, that's us done. So P1, kill the engine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and he was starting 7th, so will he now have to start pit lane?
I think since he didn't return on his own, he has to either go to the back or pit lane. Is that right, Dave?
Yep, pit lane.
Wow. So he's starting in pit lane. John, I suppose we should, for those who didn't see qualifying, go through what is a very topsy-turvy setup.
Let's go ahead and let's get our break in real quick, guys. And then when we come back, we'll go through all of that. And then we'll get you back up to speed with what's happening on track right now. You listen to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM, back after these messages.
Hello, I'm Jenny Gow from BBC F1. You are listening to Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're just about a half hour from the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa, but we got to let you know what's going on the ground, because we told you about Perez hitting the wall. But, man, Jonathan, look at this weather. Look at the soup. We saw Romain Grosjean in the grid, but kind of help everybody get a picture of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, atrocious conditions, as bad as I've seen all weekend, and it's been raining all weekend. And there was talk amongst the Sky crew about potentially starting behind the safety car. And again, that throws up another interesting start Spa, which is always interesting because of what Dave said earlier, which is your first corner is actually a slow hairpin. Which has been, talking of Grosjean, been a site of many offs in the past, but you don't get down to Eau Rouge until, quite some yardage. And it means that having the pole at Spa, wet or dry, is not always the biggest advantage, because you've got this long run up the hill after Eau Rouge, which can, make it 3 wide by the time you get down there.
When I was there, one of the things that I noticed is we had a little bit of sprinkling, but not a great deal. It didn't really impair anything, but there were clouds at tree height in that area.
Yeah.
And that was remarkable in itself, because you pretty much were damp just walking around, even though it wasn't raining.
It's Spa.
Yep. Well, let's touch on qualifying. We've had so much to talk about. We really haven't talked about it. So, Jonathan, you want to walk us through the qualifying, and then we'll see how the grid penalties affect that and go to the starting grid.
Yeah. So basically, Russell got the provisional pole position, which was incredible. But it was one of those situations where that you were looking for a window of appropriateness, if that's the right word, but the best potential of the day, because it was changing ever so. And we had the big crash in Q2, which involved Lando Norris, which brought everything to a halt. And then that might have helped the rain, but it kind of didn't, because it continued. They went out, and obviously Norris took no further part, will start 10th. But Russell was the story. Russell was without doubt the story, only to be ellipsed by Verstappen at the very last. And more importantly, he out-qualified Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. Bottas has already got a penalty from Hungary, but you've got Ricciardo starting 4th, his best qualifying for McLaren, and the Ferraris are nowhere.
Yeah, that is one of the big things that stands out. It's like, what is going on with Ferrari here? It almost looked like Ferrari just said, this is such a soupy mess, we're not going to try to get in the middle of it. I couldn't figure out what's going on with Ferrari.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't figure it out yesterday because they were a no-show. I mean, Leclerc and Sainz. Usually one of them. I mean, Carlos Sainz in his interview was really disappointed with himself, because he usually goes so well in these sorts of conditions and shines. And you can argue that Russell's lap, because of the weather, was a leveler. And what I meant by that is, if you've got a low-powered car, or a car that isn't operating as well as some of the others, then the rain can help your quest, and it's about driver skill at that point. But both Ferraris that far down, that would surprise me, especially Leclerc as well.
Well, I was explaining to somebody, they're like, why do they always say that rain levels the field? And I said, quite honestly, it comes down to the traction that's available.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter all the rest of the science. It comes down to what traction you can get to the asphalt and go. And I said, so that levels it. And then you also have the driver, but you take away all those things, downforce still has to be managed. It's not nearly as critical anymore. A lot of things like that just come into play, and it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But, you were talking about Charles Leclerc. For one, in his post-quality interview, he talked about how disappointed he was and said, it was the decision in the team and how they were going to handle things, the timing, the tires, and when they're going to go with the tires. He goes, but they're doing their best with the information they had, and here we go. We're going to do our best this weekend.
Mm.
And so I appreciated it because it was very practical, critical appraisal. Hey, disappointed we went this way, but we did our best with what we had.
Right.
Hey guys, we've got some good team radio clips when the cars were out on track a minute ago. Let's start with this clip from Russell talking about visibility. Let's play that.
Visibility is very poor. Even when I was about 6 seconds behind the car ahead, I couldn't see down the straight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, it's good for the hunt lead dog. You get the best view, but and he is the lead dog today, or one of them. But you wouldn't want to be starting where Raikkonen's starting if that's the case.
Oh,
yeah, I wouldn't want to start anywhere but the front row.
Yeah.
And if I wind up second in that, I'd probably going off in the fence.
Let's hear Red Bull radio, because we've got Perez, with a problem with his car, maybe out of the race. Let's hear Red Bull radio.
Okay, Max. So Checo's hit the wall at turn 6. Looks like he could be out. So just nice and easy on the way to the grid, please.
Wow.
Prophetic words.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So Perez's right suspension is out. You can bet he's going to have to watch from the side.
Hey, what about
They changed it in Hungary, didn't they? For Max, they changed the front suspension and got him out, and he won, didn't he? In Hungary 2 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Good point.
The start of the race. So.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, Horner's not looking too stressed. He's being interviewed at the moment, so I guess all is in hand. But there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of darting about at the moment. There's a lot of wet weather. It's pretty nasty at this stage, heading 20 minutes away from the start.
Yeah. That's how long will they actually delay a race, Dave? I mean, I know they have their they've got TV windows, but they've also got race windows in a situation like this.
Kind of situation happened, and the rules got changed in Canada in 2012, I think it was. So once the race has started, I think I'm correct in saying you have a 4-hour window to finish it. Because the race hasn't started, they'll keep delaying it 10 minutes at a time until they get to a point. And then obviously the thing that then comes into play is whether it will be light still at the end of it, which in Australia they had to move the start time because of the sun coming down. They started the race later and later in Australia for the viewers, I guess it was, and then the sun was a player in it, getting in the driver's eyes, and also the darkness coming into play as well. So yeah, I think it's 4 hours from the start of the race, and then obviously the rest is down to nature.
Wow.
We have a caller on the line. We got one of our regulars. We've got Mike in Tennessee today. Hey, Mike, how's it going, buddy?
Good morning, gentlemen. Great day for Formula One racing.
Absolutely.
Guess what I have on the truck, Les?
Uh-oh. If when he calls my name out, it's probably a Porsche.
No. I have a 19. No, excuse me. It shows how old I am. I have a 2022 Corvette with the numbers 0001.
Oh,
wow. Nice. Okay, so that's probably headed to somebody that's going to donate it for auction.
I'm not at liberty to say where they're going, but I have 10 of them. And back to racing, it broke my heart to see Perez slide into the tires.
Yeah. It's right off the bat. I mean, it comes in like that, and the frustrating thing for me, I mean, certainly it's minor compared to those that actually are not in the race, But he should have known better. Checo is such an ace in driving in all conditions, and he's got the history. And I'm just blown away that Checo was who wound up in there. You know, Max is kind of a hothead. I wouldn't have necessarily been surprised.
It kind of was a high and a low. He got his contract, and I said, all right, and then he goes in the wall.
Exactly. And,
but it looks, as you guys were saying, I've watched a fair amount, nowhere near what you people have done, but to see the turnout for a Dutchman in this rain, and it's just it's going to be a good race, irregardless of the weather conditions, as we all know, because we like F1. And I just wanted to chime in and say, hey, I have not forgotten you guys. I'll always be here.
Thanks, Mike. Well, enjoy Scottsdale. That's where those usually go. Mike didn't say a thing out of line at all. He's still gainfully employed.
Wink, wink, wink. It's exporting off the East Coast.
Ooh.
I have a tendency to think there's a few have gone to Michigan, and I think they're probably their counterparts in the rest of the world are getting theirs. Is my kind of suspicion.
Gotcha.
Well, Mike,
haven't seen one.
We appreciate you calling. We appreciate you calling in, and take care of that precious cargo you have.
All righty. Thanks, Mike. Yeah. He still hadn't found our address. I know it's on Google. I already checked.
Hey, guys, I was watching when Perez hit the wall. I watched the replays really close, and it was the pure definition of hydroplaning. He had zero traction. He wasn't going fast, obviously. And I mean, he had the wheels fully locked to the left, and just was going straight. He was a complete passenger. There was nothing he could do. The water was just carrying him straight into the wall. So he did not have a choice, and there's nothing he could do about it. But guys, let's go ahead and get our last break in before the race. And when we come back, we'll take you straight into the race. You listen to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM, back after this quick message.
Hello to everyone, this is Gunther Steiner, this is Speed City.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM.
Has your workforce moved from the office to the home, or the garage, or maybe a rented cabin with open Wi-Fi? If your company has expanded outside the office and moved all your applications to the cloud, there's a whole new world of threats you have to worry about, including ransomware. CrowdStrike revolutionized security by harnessing the speed and power of the cloud to identify and stop the most advanced cyber attacks, even those that have never been seen before. So now you can work securely anywhere. Try CrowdStrike Falcon free today and protect your data and your employees anywhere. Welcome to Anywhere. CrowdStrike, we stop breaches. Access the CrowdStrike Falcon platform free at crowdstrike.com/anywhere. All right, welcome back to the show. We are looking at about 10 minutes, at least currently. We haven't seen an official delay as of this moment, but we're about 10 minutes or so. So we are watching all of this carefully. In fact, I'm just checking to see if Formula One, now that I don't see any updates, but
I'm just going by the ducks swimming by.
Yeah. I was going to say the one thing that is absolutely certain is that it's 100% chance of rain. The rain is still coming down, and it doesn't look like that is going to change. But man, guys, so Dave O'Neill, you used to be the manager team of Haas F1 team. So at this point, I mean, what are you expecting to happen? I mean, do you think that they're going to try to start this race in this crazy conditions?
I mean, because of Perez going off, they'll be hesitant to do anything like start it. So the main thing is they listen to all the drivers' radios. So as the drivers are going around, Hamilton normally says, "No, let's start it. It's fine." But when you hear someone like him saying it's probably a little bit dangerous or it's not safe enough to get going, they'd listen to him. Vettel is normally, quite vocal about starting the race, or when it's dangerous. So they listen to him. Your feedback, your driver's input to race control. In this case, it would have been Schumacher and Marzipan, and then the race director would get the information he needs in and kind of make an educated decision on whether they should start the race. But in this case, seems too wet to start it, and obviously we don't want anyone hurt, so they'll see it out a little bit and delay the race, probably 10 minutes at a time.
Well, it looks like officially we're going to be starting behind the safety car. So that much we just found out. By the way, I had a couple of people asking about Bob Varsha. I forgot to mention that Bob is, he's actually doing some work out at, where did Bob say he was, gentlemen? Because he's not going to be with us today, but that's right. He's in Charlotte helping out for Extreme E out there that Bob does for Fox. So
no ransom needed.
There you go. Yeah, somebody offered to pay ransom to have Bob back. Well, we do that too.
Also, I wanted to mention that we've got a great guest for the post-race show. Don't forget, we have our 1 hour post-race show after every race, and that will be Kyle Kirkwood, American driver that has just had a meteoric rise in racing. So we'll have Kyle Kirkwood.
And according to Buxton's going to be racing for Haas in 2025.
yeah, I saw that. That was interesting.
We'll have to ask him about that.
But I see the producer has given us a message that he's watching Sky, and wait a minute, we're still trying to get the exact updates, guys. With this weather, we really don't know what's going to happen right now. This is just crazy. But hey, we talked about when Lando Norris had his big crash, right, going at the start of Q3 in qualifying. But what we didn't really talk about was how well he was doing before that. I mean, Lando was on fire, and really, don't y'all think he was
robbed
the favorite for pole at that point?
I think he was. He'd been fastest in Q1 and Q2. And so, he was odds on.
Without being rude, look where Ricciardo is, and Norris is normally up the road from him, so there's a good chance he would have been on pole.
Yeah. Hey, we've got another radio transmission I want to play. We got this is Lewis Hamilton talking about the rain. Let's play that.
Is this rain going to just keep getting worse like this?
Yeah, I think it's going to be like this all afternoon. I haven't really got much more than that.
Wow.
Ouch.
Well, those jet skis that got put away at the end of the summer break, why don't you just bring them back?
I think there's a need.
The last rain we saw like this in Formula One, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, it may have been at Coda on Saturday when it was so bad. They just literally called everything off on Saturday. They called off practice 3 and qualifying because it was so bad here in Austin.
That's right.
I mean, this is crazy. I don't know what is going to happen here.
Yeah, that's when some of them were making rowboats out of various F1 gear. Dana Ricciardo was out on the pit lane dancing. Yeah, what a mess. That's as close as we get, I think.
Wow.
Well, and also it's worth now going through this topsy-turvy grid because it's not with that incident with Norris and with Bottas already having a penalty. It's the most turned around grid I've seen in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me read the starting grid based on what we know at this moment, and that is so Verstappen on pole. So Verstappen is going to start on the front row next to George Russell. Then we have Lewis Hamilton and Daniel Ricciardo, as discussed. Then Sebastian Vettel, Pierre Gasly, and then that's where slot was. So we'll see what happens. And then Esteban Ocon, Charles Leclerc, Nicholas Latifi in 10th, the other Williams car. Quite a big difference there. And then the other Ferrari, Carlos Sainz and Fernando Alonso. Bottas down in 13 after his grid penalty. Giovinazzi, Norris, as Yuki Tsunoda 16th, Schumacher 17th, Mazepin, Stroll, and Raikkonen. But yeah, this you're right, Jonathan. That's pretty topsy-turvy, and if you'd have read that off earlier in the week before we knew how much rain, no one would have believed all this.
Yeah, I mean, we always expect rain at Spa at some point, but the way it's come down this weekend has been both consistent and also mysterious, because it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off, it's sunlight, and then even Martin Brundle, who's been coming here forever, was saying that it was the weirdest he's seen it, and Spa is perennially weird weather-wise.
Should be interesting. Maybe I'll put my money on Fernando Alonso since he races sailboats.
Well, I don't count out Raikkonen the way it's going.
Yeah, Raikkonen from the back.
There you go. Yeah, Mr. Driftmaster finished.
Hey, Dave, I've got one for you. Adam Cooper from F1 has just tweeted out, Nikita Mazepan, can you please note down that the mirrors are different? We'll discuss after the race. How does that happen?
The mirrors are different.
Yeah.
What, is he being sarcastic or?
I don't know. It's a tweet.
It's Mazepin. That's the punchline of most jokes anyway.
Maybe he's got mirrors on the front so he can see himself when he's spinning around.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Oh.
I'm sure you would have been there with Gunter's spin top for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that started in the garage somewhere and ended up on Gunter's desk. And
hey, joking aside, this could be a great opportunity for the Haas boys to score some points today. They're a long way down, but I mean, it really is one of those days, isn't it? 17th and 18th on the grid.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Who puts anything off the table at this point?
No.
I think they just need to slowly drift backwards, get out of the water spray, and just take a Sunday drive. It's beautiful country. Yeah, just stay back there out of the water spray. Don't go too fast,
We got, again, Gasly's up there as well, P6. He's way, he's 10 places in front of his teammate. And again, fantastic result here at Spa for Gasly.
And he's on top of his game. There's no question. I've been really impressed with how he's driven this year.
I won't take Gasly's prediction yesterday anymore because he was expecting it to dry as the race went on.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, we are out of time for our pre-race show. Oh, they just said delayed start. Literally, as I was saying that. So let's see what the details are going to be here. No surprise there, though, obviously.
No, and they're all sat on the grid. They're all everybody's left the grid, so they're left to themselves. But if they're going to delay the start, I would have thought. I don't know. Again, I'll bring the mighty mind of Mr. O'Neill. Now, what happens? Because here's the situation at the moment that we're all looking at, which is you've still got personnel on the grid, but they've delayed it. So do they sit there and wait? Or do they now go back in and wait in the pits? It seems to me that they would do a formation of such and bring them back in again because it's just going to get soaked out there.
Yeah, what you'll probably find is there's only 16 personnel now allowed on the grid once the lights have been turned off. So you'll probably see a load of easy ups come out and they'll be erected over the cars and they'll sit on the grid.
Okay.
Tyre changing's not permitted for the delay, so they have to sit there and wait, and then they'll get into whether they need to shorten the race from this point on as well.
Hey guys, we just got word there's going to be a formation lap at 10 after the hour, so we're getting looks like you said, Dave, it's going to be every 10 minutes. So yeah, it looks like that's the next step that we can expect to see here. I don't see that the rain has stopped the crowd. The grandstands look full.
Yeah. Oh, the Dutch, they won't go anywhere.
Yeah, and the temperature's not too bad either as well. So they'll be cracking the beers open and getting on with it.
No, I think that started much earlier.
Look at the shot down the straight where you can't even see anything beyond the paddock. I mean, it just looks like a giant fog bank.
Well, the other thing is now think about, we talked about Eau Rouge. Think about the water running down that hill into the compression.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Dave, I see your face when Jonathan's talking about that. You're you're smiling, going, "What do you do? What do you do as a driver? That's crazy."
Yeah, I mean they have the drainage is pretty good there. But I was reading an article on the plane yesterday about about Eau Rouge, and I think they back in the day, I guess back in the 50s, it used to turn left into the forest, and then that's where the long circuit happened, heading towards Germany, I think they said. But yeah, I'm just reading a few things about it now.
Well, in case you're wondering what's happening, drivers in and out of cars right now as they prepare for the. I mean, it doesn't look like they're. How many minutes now? It doesn't look like they're 8 minutes away from a formation lap, but that may be the case. I don't know if something's actually changing on the fly right now, but the cameras are all covered in water. You can almost not even see the coverage on television because of the cameras are completely covered. A lot of drivers still in the cars with umbrellas over them right now. They're showing Gasly. So yeah, this is a deluge is a perfect way to describe what we're seeing.
So you'll see the 10-minute delay, but 5 minutes into the 10-minute delay, they'll do another 10-minute delay. So if it goes past 5 minutes, you're typically going to get some action after that. So 5 minutes is normally the reset to the next 10 minutes.
By the way, gives us a chance to talk about a man on screen that I'm looking at right now, which is Sebastian Vettel. What a comeback he's made. From the start of the season. If we're at the halfway point, all right, it's a strange grid because of the weather, but Vettel's back.
Yeah. And what about Vettel slowing down to take a look and see if Lando Norris was okay? Vettel, I love Vettel now. We've had the new Vettel. He's like, everything from going out and changing the grid boards a couple of years ago to, I mean, he's got this whole new attitude of like, I'm going to do and whatever I want. I am a 4-time champion and I'm going to do whatever I want.
Yep.
I think he's got the team. When he experienced what he did coming out of junior formulas into Red Bull, he was the king of the team. Everyone wrapped themselves around him and gave him the love he needed. And I don't think that quite happened at Ferrari. But having him in his new team now, he must be having that sort of feeling for him to go out and make these sort of statements, I guess.
Yeah, and I also think that he's a bit like a Barrichello figure in that he needs a mental hug. And I totally agree with Dave on this, which is Ferrari and McLaren are two places that if you're fragile when it comes to confidence, you don't want to be there. Red Bull was built around him, and he was the number one driver. Ferrari, I think he lost his way, and I think he is much happier in where he is. He's got a stake in the company, and I do think that he's probably as sated as he's been in a long time.
You're right. I actually caught an interview with him yesterday after quali, and he was talking about he's happy with the progression he's seeing in the team, that things are coming together now, and he was hoping, he felt real strong about this weekend. I don't know about how good he is for the wet this weekend, but he was very pleased with what's happening. And so I think we've seen that. Now, remember, Hungaroring, he was DQ'd because he didn't have the required liter of fuel. It was like 330% of what he should have. Well, and so there's a great tech story in that I'll share with you, is that it turned out that some of the fuel atomized and evaporated out one of the fuel vents, if I understand the technology correct, and that they have what is essentially a little reservoir in the tank that will circulate fuel through it to keep it in their current design. Dave, does that sound familiar?
Yeah, so they have what they call a collector pot, which you have 4 or 5 lift pumps within the tank that fills up this reservoir, which is about a litre. So kind of 0.4 of a gallon. And that's typically where the main fuel pump draws the reservoir of fuel from. It's kind of common, you know, the cars need to finish with X amount of fuel in, litre of fuel for the tests. So you get three tests or 3 cans that the fuel goes into, one to the FIA, one to the fuel sampling department, and then also you get to keep one yourself, and it's sealed, it's tested, and if you don't have the required amount of fuel to go in for these tests and samples, obviously you're out. I think we had it with Jordan in Manicourt back with friends, and I think we had to take the fuel injector rail off and tip the fuel out of there into the sample pot. But now you have to pump the fuel from the car into the liter can, and then from the liter can it gets distributed into the 3 of the other sample pots. As I say, one for the team, one for the fuel testing, and then one for the FIA.
I'm curious, what is the purpose of the team getting a portion of their own fuel back?
Well, there's loads of different reasons. If you want to dispute the result, you have it sealed. It's got an FIA seal on it. If they lose it, spill it, anything like that happens, I guess it's a safety feature.
All right,
safety feature.
Hey guys, let's move back to what we're seeing. Looks like we're still on time. All the drivers are back in their cars. Everybody's under their umbrellas. And there's a couple of updates. Like Max Verstappen said over radio, he said the weight is not helping, that it adds, and he also added that the race could easily have started on time. Here's an update on tires. Everyone is on new wets except for the following who are on used wets. Hamilton, Vettel, Ocon, and Bottas are on used wets. So everybody's on full wets. Most of them are on new. But it looks like that we're going to be starting the formation lap in about a minute and a half here. So
on those full wets, the difference in why.
Oh, they've just delayed it. They've just delayed it another 10 minutes. Oh yeah, sorry. We missed an update. They've updated it and moved it to 20 after. So, I mean, they who knows? They may just keep going like this, guys.
And we might also start to lose some laps at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on those wet tires, the thing that the reason you want to know whether those are new or used is not because of the depth so much, but the squareness of the blocks that are on that type of tire are as crucial as the depth. And it's the edges of the blocks that often wear off in the early life of the tire, and that affects how much they disperse the water.
There you go.
Getting the rooster tail.
Either way, this is going to be a tough day at the office.
What was that, Dave?
I'd say you're getting the rooster tail. This is where you see the big rooster tail come out the back of the car with the huge amount of water dispersed from the tyres. As Les says, you've got to have those sharp blocks. As soon as you get the rounded edges, you don't get the seal between the tyre and the surface, which then creates the block and then throws the water out. The other thing, which I just need to look in the rules quickly, see if anything has changed, how many sets of wets they get. Because if it is going to stay this wet all race, the advantage would be had of who has the newest tyres at the end of the race. Because as you do get a drying line, the tyres tend to roll over and they get destroyed pretty quickly. And the blocks start chunking off the tyres, and then you lose grip and the tyres delaminate and it's all over. So, that's when you come in for the intermediates. Is when you get this drying line, having the 20 cars go round and round and on the same line each time, you will see some form of tarmac appear through the rain. So.
Well, we're just sitting here watching, and it looks like the weather's not changing any. And I don't see any. Everybody's still. All the drivers are still in their cars. They've popped up some of the easy ups that you can buy at Walmart and they look the same. and yeah, Ferrari just put theirs up, and so I don't really see any big changes here. But you know what? Let's go ahead and let's get a break in while we can. We've got a few minutes here, so let's go ahead and take a break now. And when we come back, we'll keep you updated on exactly what's happening at Spa for the Belgian Grand Prix in the deluge this year. We'll be back after these messages.
You're listening to Speed City F1 on Sirius XM.
All right, welcome back to the show. Looks like we're about 6 minutes from the formation lap. And when we get to the formation lap, we'll go back out to the BBC for their race coverage. But in the meantime, I want to play just a little 1-minute clip, because this week we sat down over Zoom with the mayor of Austin to talk about the Formula One race here. We talked about the possibility of the second race, but we mainly just wanted to get his take and what the city was thinking about a giant event with people coming in from who knows where. So let's go ahead and play this clip. Producer, do we have that clip of Mayor Adler, the little 1-minute clip? He's working on that. But the reason we wanted to do this is because, if you recall, Mayor Adler was he was really the first mayor to shut down a major event last year when he shut down South by Southwest at the very beginning of the pandemic. So let's hear from Austin Mayor Adler right now.
I think right now we're set to go, and I'm excited for that. The Austin Public Health Authority is working with the modelers at the University of Texas, and if that changes, we'll certainly know. But I know that the priority is to figure out how it is we run big events like this in a way that is safe. I think the Delta virus is going to be with us for a while. It's not an option to close back up cities the way that they had closed in the past. A community is going to have to learn how to do this kind of virus and do it in a safe way, because it's something I think we're going to have to sustain. There was just an event concert out at Coda here recently, and some of these precautions mitigation efforts were taken at the request of, I guess, the artist out there, and we were real appreciative of that. And I think that's the kind of thing that we're going to see more and more of.
Yep, I think that was pretty good news. Sounds like they want to find a way to make it happen here in Austin, one way or the other. And we're going to play some more of that in the post-race show, because he does talk about the possibility of requirements like having a proof of vaccination and or proof of a negative test. Don't know what they're going to say about masks and all that. And we just got word there is another delay. We're now delayed out. That's another 5-minute delay out to 25 past the hour.
You know, one of the things that, I mean, certainly everybody wants some revenue in town, try to make up for last year. We've got MotoGP here at the Circuit of the Americas the first weekend of October. And so I'm kind of using that as a barometer in matters of watching what they're doing right now. It's still full force on. You know, in seeing what we've seen around the world, I could see them limiting the audience or doing something of that nature. But right now, it's still all systems go. Big push addressing the surge in the pandemic and making sure that levels off and is back into a tolerable level to keep moving forward.
Well, you talk about limiting the audience. I was talking to a travel agent this week, and by proxy, you're not going to get foreigners here unless they have a special visa, special interest visa to be here, which the people in the MotoGP bubble, and the same with Formula One. But as a casual fan, you can't just jump on a plane now and go around the world. There's quarantine. There's there's certain countries that aren't allowing foreign nationals in without a special interest visa.
Right. And
okay, Jonathan. So Circuit of the Americas has been saying for quite a while now that this thing is almost sold out. So are we going to have a grandstands and circuit full of Americans. If we can't get other people, because we've seen stats. If you go back to the first year, they said there were 40,000 fans from Mexico.
Yeah.
And over the years, they've said it's been anywhere from, I want to say, approaching 50% of people from outside the country.
Yeah.
So if we're sold out, going back to the Netflix effect,
it's all
Americans.
Are we going to get 100% Americans almost? That'd be wild. Yeah. Well, you won't get your casual fan coming over from Britain on the BA flight. A, it's not taken off from Britain anymore because of COVID, and B, they're not letting people in.
Yeah, I heard from somebody that was out at the NASCAR race and seeing that, and that was their first experience at COTA, though it, sloppy wet, kind of like Belgium today. But they said, oh, well, now I want to go see one of the others out there. It's like, great, come on. So NASCAR opened some doors and got us some new audience as well. So we may have that audience yet. Certainly it's going to be partly the mayor's call on what happens.
Sure. Hey, I'm watching the ESPN coverage. And Vettel has the most creative rain guard. They had 3 umbrellas perched around the cockpit. It was perfect. But hey, speaking of Sebastian Vettel, we got a little clip from him talking about the radar. Let's play that.
Sebastian, at the moment, our latest radar is about an hour. This rain intensity still.
But also, I noticed that some of the teams are taking down some of the cover-ups. And it looked like it might be a break in the weather, but I don't know. I think it's just, we just literally have to go minute by minute here. But, well, Jonathan, let's talk a little bit about some of the other things that we had in our show doc. One of the ones that we had on your name is talking about Juan Manuel Correa. We talked about W Series and Formula 3.
Yeah, and for those who don't know the story, good friend of the show, Juan Manuel Correa from Miami, Florida, was a Formula 2 driver before he was involved in that fatal incident for Antoine Hubert a few years ago, which he was badly injured in as well. And sadly, Hubert, the young Formula Renault or Renault Junior at the time, Alpine Junior would be now, lost his life. Correa was badly injured and was out of motor racing for an entire year, if not 18 months, and wanted to make a comeback, made a comeback, but decided to come back into Formula 3, which I think was quite a wise decision because he didn't have a lot of strength at first, and he was touch and go whether he'd come back. But this is where he sustained those injuries that put him out of motor racing, and He's faced the demons this weekend, and admirably so. Not an easy weekend for a young man to have been part of such a horrible incident at the top of Eau Rouge and come back and race it and be fully committed. It's the difference between whether your career goes sort of fails out, fizzles out, or you get back to your full powers.
Yeah, we've had him on the show a couple times, and he's been upbeat, hasn't he? He's never lost faith that he was going to be back in a race car, and he's got some work to do. I would imagine he probably has to relearn how to drive a bit. But hey, guys, it looks like we're now coming up on 2 or 3 minutes. And we still haven't seen another delay announced yet. So we may yet see the start of this race. Although they're showing a wide shot now, I don't know how they're going to do that because it looks just miserable still. So, but we haven't seen another delay yet. But Jonathan, how did Juan Manuel Correa do this weekend?
Okay. I mean, he didn't change the world. He got, I think, 18th in the first race, and he was there or thereabouts. But no, he kept a clean set of heels. In terms of Americans, he didn't have the same success as Logan Sargent, who got on a podium, and likewise Jack Crawford. So the Americans are there and very much, and we'll be talking to one of them, Kyle Kirkwood, who is doing the same thing on this side of the planet. And has every reason to be considered as another young American for an F1 seat, just as those names I've just mentioned are right in the offing, especially as two of them, Logan Sargent and Correa, are both from Miami. And, of course, we've got a Miami Grand Prix coming up. So, you know, I just want to keep those names, you know, up in the forefront so that people don't get surprised when suddenly one of them gets a break.
Yeah. Well, it looks like that we are going to get the start of the race. So we're going to be tossing out to the BBC here in just a minute. I just have to talk about, they showed Perez's car up close and his suspension was completely destroyed. I mean, it didn't look like that. It looked like he just kind of eased into the wall, but man, it completely ripped up that suspension.
A lot of momentum.
Yeah. Looks like we have another radio clip that we want to get in real quick, or no. Just it looks like from McLaren. According to McLaren, it looks like heavier rain coming in 20 minutes.
Get some laps in.
All right, guys. Well, producer, are we ready to go to the BBC? All right, we're going to head it out to the BBC. Stay tuned to this channel, and we will talk to you after the race. Thanks for tuning in this morning.